Yo, what's up? And welcome back to the More Than 2% podcast. My name is Nicole Stark, and I'm so pumped that you're here, whether you're listening or you're watching. I'm excited for you to be here. Hey, what's so interesting? I was thinking about this podcast literally, I don't know, a couple moments ago, earlier today as well. And whenever I just think of it, and I was like, you know what? I love the fact, and I don't know if I'm doing a good job at this, of making it. In fact, I don't think I am, to be honest. Last week's episode, now that I think of it, was pretty deep. But I'm trying to make it chiller, right? I think I said that in one of the episodes. And I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not. I also recognize and realize, but I did say this last week. We got this tagline of having private conversations in public. And I promise, I'm not lying to you, we are going to do it. I just haven't felt the need to bring any guest on. And in fact, I've actually told people, I was like, hey, can you be on my podcast? And they've all said yes. I just haven't. I think I've asked 3 different people. And I just haven't scheduled them. One of the reasons is I don't feel like, I was gonna do it for the first 4 episodes. Another is I have a tendency to film these things at like midnight. And unlike me, everyone kind of goes to bed a little bit earlier. I was talking to somebody, and they were like floored at the fact that I went to bed at 1:00. And I honestly think that's normal. I'm like, dude, I don't know how people go to bed at 9. And I was going to say 9 in the morning, but 9 p.m. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. 1:00 is like, as soon as I see 12:00 on my phone, I'm like, oh dude, it's wind down time. Like this is where it's like, I put on my what do I have? It's right literally on the side of my room. I can't remember it. You put like eucalyptus. It's like oils come out of it. It's going to bug me. What is it? Dang it. I forgot. Dude, that sucks. It'll come. It'll come. Oh my gosh. What are those things called? Those little like, oil comes out, like mist and diffusers. Yes. I have a diffuser. About 12:00, midnight. I put the diffuser on. I have like a little light on it. It's magenta set, and I literally vibe. I put on some good, like, I love good worship music, and I'll literally put on like Mav City, and I will just sit there on my couch in my room, like, this is the life that I knew God has called me. Like, it's awesome. And so, why did I bring that up? I have no idea. Oh, because yeah. So anyways, guess they're coming on. I just hasn't been this episode of the last 3, but they'll be there, and we're gonna have some private conversations. It's so funny too. I was thinking of like, when you invite people, okay, you have like, you host a party, you host a gathering, whatever it is, and you invite people, and you're like thinking through like, okay, what food am I gonna bring them? What dessert? What drinks? I know food and desserts or drinks. Don't come at me, okay? What games are you going to play? I always think through games. I don't know why. I always find it so fascinating and boring, to say the least, when I go to someone's house and I just sit on their couch and they want to like, just, it's like, do you want to stare at each other? Like, do you have something planned, And so whenever I host people, and if you've come to my house, this, we're always like, well, what games should we play? Because I just feel like games are like these icebreaker things where it's like you have a game and everyone's like, you've got people laughing, you've got people maybe crying. In fact, one time we did a game, and have y'all ever played Mafia? Okay. Mafia gets really intense because the point of the game is you literally are lying to your friends and convincing them that you're not Mafia, somebody else's Mafia. That probably doesn't make sense if you've never played it before, but if you have, you know, okay? And so you're basically like putting friends against each other, and you're lying and you're creating scenarios, and quite honestly, it can tear friend groups apart, like if we get to the root of it. And so we played it at my house once, and we were in the back, like patio, porch area thingy, whatever it's called in my house. And it was like, I've never played Mafia, and this particular situation was so, like, when you can almost like, there's that saying where you can hear like you can drop a pin and you can hear it because it's so quiet, like or you can cut the tension with a knife, right, so to speak. That's how it was, bro. I was sitting there and I was like, oh, this is so awkward. And they're probably listening to this and they're like, that, yeah, okay, whatever. Anyways, I just love games. I feel like you've got to have an icebreaker. And so for this podcast with the guests, I was like, dude, what do we even have? Like, what am I going to like do? Like, are we just going to So obviously, since we're conversational, since we're friends, since we are having these weekly talks every Friday at noon, you should tell me what I should do. You should tell me what I should ask them. I was thinking of like putting like a jar of questions, like having a jar of questions, and like they would like have to like pick one random question and then they had no choice but to answer it, you know, like some fun icebreaker thing. That, or we might as well just go deep. So like I don't know. I didn't really think through that, but I will next week if I have a guest, which I think next week is episode 5. I should have a guest by then, and so it's gonna be exciting. So look forward to those private conversations. I'm pumped about it. I'm pumped to bring my friends along. In fact, I told my best friends, I was like, hey, I want you on, because how cool would it be to have a conversation about friendship? In fact, I should egg that on. I love a good friendship. There's nothing for me that's more epic in life than having a good community. In fact, I feel like I talked about this some time ago, but in my life right now at 25 years old, I know I don't look 25. People tell me all the time, they're like, yo, you look like you're a good 19. I got 20 the other day and I was like, oh, bet. At least I'm past the teenage year. But I feel like, you know, right now it might not be good for me, but at 40, I'll be looking like J-Lo. And so, hey, it might not benefit me now, but it will benefit me in like 20 years. So thank God for that one. But I was talking to some friends and we were talking about the importance of like community. And again, at 25, I love the community that I have, just because I feel like I am where I am today because of those around me, right? And I mentioned this again prior in another episode. I keep referring to previous episodes, but it's because I talked about it. But my mom growing up would tell me, she would be like, hey, she would call me Ate, right? She'd be like, Ate, show me like who your 5 friends are, your 5 closest friends, and I'll show you what your future looks like. In fact, okay, I have my phone with me. And I don't know why I'm showing you this, but I took a screenshot of this quote. I hope I can find it. And I honestly am trying to still figure out if I like it, but someone said something, and this was literally the quote. They said, when the character of someone is not clear to you, look at their friends. And I remember reading that and I was like, dude, that's kind of pretty true. Like, and I always say the word vibey because of my lack of vocabulary, but nonetheless, let me read it again. When the character of someone is not clear to you, look at their friends. And I feel like it just shows you like who you're around, like you become who you're with. Like that's just kind of like, it's not like this genius, like, oh my gosh, like you figured out some like crazy, like, you know, equation that no one could figure out. It's like everybody knows it. Like you are who you're with, who you're constantly with. And I feel like in this particular couple years of my life, I've just been in this, thank God, in this awesome group of like having friends who, and here's what I feel like in terms of like, what does it look like to have a good friend, right? One, you have to be a good friend. I feel like that is so key. So many people are always looking for good friends, but aren't being a good friend themselves, right? Like I've heard it so many times. Drake rapped about it, like trust issues. Like so many people, in fact, I feel like everyone in Gen Z has trust issues at one way or another. You know what I mean? Like we've got trust issues like in every single area. And that's because so many of us don't know how to be loyal. Like it's so hard for people just to be there and to be loyal and to say, hey, I've got you no matter what. Like I've got your back. I'm going to love you through whatever you're going through. Like I'm here for you. Right. And so I feel like one of the key things of having good friends is being a good friend yourself. Right. And so I always do this thing in my life. My friends tell me all the time. They're like, dude, you overthink a lot. And quite honestly, I probably do. And something I'm learning to not do is to just constantly overanalyze and overthink. And it's just not good, right? But one of the things that I was looking at, and I feel like I often do, is I always try to like check my heart to see like, yo, like, did I respond to my friend right? Or I know that sounds kind of weird, right? Like when you're in a conversation, but I think the greatest thing you can do is own up to your mistakes and apologize when you need to, right? Like I always feel like one of the best things you can do is before you're pointing fingers to everybody else, like point the finger to yourself first and say, okay, but like, did I do something wrong? Like, was there a mistake in my life? Did I mess up? Did I don't know, jump the gun? Did I yell at them? Was I heavy-handed? Whatever it may be. Because what I've realized is when you yourself become a good friend, you'll begin to draw in people who recognize that as well. And it kind of just becomes this like pattern in your life where it's like, oh man, like now I'm being surrounded by good people, because you draw, people will attract to you when you're literally genuinely just a good person. And so anyways, so I always think like, in order to have good friends, you yourself must be a good friend, right? And then the second thing that I look forward to is like, when it comes to a good friend, is just like, don't just celebrate me when I'm in my highs, but man, can you be with me when I'm in my lows? And I've had so many low moments in my life. Like it's funny how many low moments I've had. I kind of look back and I'm like, dude, I remember one time, this is actually speaking of like holidays, it was over Thanksgiving going into Christmas, and I was going through this terrible part of my life. I think I was 20, might have been 20. And I was just going through it. And I remember I was sitting on my couch, and one of my good friends, she got me ice cream. And I was like eating, my favorite ice cream, by the way, is Rocky Road. And I was eating this Rocky Road ice cream. And I was like, oh, like throwing a pity party. And probably about 30 minutes of me throwing a pity party, she's just like literally sitting right next to me, watching me, right? And she was like, okay, let's go. And I was like, go where? She's like, we're going for a drive. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like, let's just go for the drive as long as you drive. And so she's driving. I remember I'm driving down one of my favorite roads, and we're going down the hill, right? And we're blasting Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You. And I'm like screaming out of the top of my lungs. I'm like, all I want for Christmas, like screaming, right? And then we get back to my house, and she looks at me and she's like, all right, like, we did it. Like, you've cried, you've sobbed, you've threw your little pity party, we got you ice cream, we did karaoke in the car, like, girl, like, get up, And I remember, like, she looked at me and she's like, I'm with you through your lowest moments, but I'm also gonna tell you, like, it's time to get up. And I love friends who don't just sit with you in your, like, low moments and then build a home there. I love friends who are like, they're going to sit with you, but then they're going to get up and say, okay, it's time to get up. And they help you get up and they help you walk through it. And it's not just this thing where it's like, I'm only going to celebrate you in the highs, and then in the lows, we'll just like pitch a tent and sit there for like years on end. But no, we're going to get through this together, and I'm going to pray with you, and I'm going to believe with you. And if you can't, believe in yourself, like, we're going to do this until you're ready to do it. And so for me, friendship is so key. I personally have had a hard time. Like, I'm not going to try to lie to you. Always had a hard time finding people, because I feel like I'm like, I have trust issues. Like, who do I trust? Who can I trust? Who do I look to? What do I do? And in this moment or this season of my life, I've just learned, like, man, in order for me to actually trust someone, I have to trust someone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in order for you to take that step, you just got to take the step. And so one of the things that I'm doing in my life is opening myself up, not completely like in the first conversation, but like giving like little pieces in conversation of hey, here's what I'm going through, hey, well, here's whatever, and trusting them with a little bit. And the more that I know, like, oh man, you're trustworthy, then I begin to do it. Because for me, I don't know why, like, you ever meet those people? My sister is one of them, and she's just good at opening up. I mean, you could talk to her, you could know her for about 2 weeks, and she's good at opening up. Me, I'm like, I feel like at times I'm like a wall where it's like, you're trying to talk to me and it's just like, you're getting the most like superficial, like surface level kind of conversations. And so one of the things that I've been walking through is really just trusting people and giving it a go, like giving it a shot. Like, I'm just gonna open up. I'm just gonna trust you. I'm just gonna try it out and we see where it goes. And I think for a long time for me was because of me getting hurt, I didn't want to risk getting hurt again. Does that make sense? So a lot of the times I found in my life where I wouldn't open up or I wouldn't trust people is because I've been hurt in those areas. So to me, it's like, well, if I can put like a 7-foot wall up around my heart, then for sure I won't get hurt again. But here's what I've realized. There's no fun in that. Like, all of a sudden, like, no one really knows who I am. I'm just kind of like this person who's got like 1,000 7-foot walls around because no one knows me because I'm too afraid of getting hurt. And so I wouldn't say I'm perfect at it. Shoot, I'm still figuring it out. Maybe we can figure this thing out together. But where I am at, does it even make any sense? Where I'm at is I'm giving it a shot. Like I'm kind of finding myself in this place in life where I'm like, hey, you got to trust people. Like try. You've got to. There's some good people around you. Like go for it. Like tell them a little bit, give them a little bit, because you'll never know unless you do it. Someone always once told me this: you'll never know who you can trust until you trust them. And so I know it's kind of scary though, right? It's like this whole step, but I'm so about community and I'm so about friendship. So I feel like that's where my wrestle is, because like parts of me is like, no, you need it, and other parts of me are like, like you're fine, you know. Like I'm a natural introvert, where people often probably think like I'm extroverted because it looks like I talk a lot, right? Which to my friends, like to my small group of friends, they're like, Nicole never shuts up. But naturally, like my natural like bent is like after a long like day, whether I'm working or whether I'm maybe just doing a bunch of other stuff, whatever that may look like, honestly, maybe I'm with family all day. There's nothing I love more than just to go to my room, close the door, and just sit. I think I mentioned it. Like I love my diffuser because I love just being by myself and just like unwinding. And the crazy part is I can do that for like days on end. Like I literally can find a good TV show. I could sit in my room and I'm just like straight vibing, you know? And so one of the things I have to do is I have to push myself out a lot and be uncomfortable. And so there's growth, right? I think we talked about this too, goodness. But there's growth when you find yourself in uncomfortable situations. Like you can't grow in comfortability. It just doesn't work out that way. And so I'm trying. So I encourage you, try with me. I've been doing this for like a year now and it has benefited me. It's like the best thing ever. Like I'm talking to people. I feel like I'm sounding like I don't talk to people, but I'm trusting people at deeper levels. So that's been fun. Anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I'm a big advocate for community because I think it's awesome. In fact, speaking of community, and then I'll wrap it up because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, dude, what did I even talk about in today's episode? Like, I feel like there was no meat, but maybe there was. I don't know. Okay. Back to my community. I look at it and you know what I've noticed is there's so much safety in community, like so much safety. Oftentimes, okay, this is going to sound so silly and I won't tell you what show, but actually I don't even know what show. I think it was a commercial. It was a commercial and I was watching TV. Yeah, it was a commercial. And I'm all into like NCIS. Like I love crime, FBI TV shows. I don't know why. I love like documentaries about crime and FBI stuff like that. It's fascinating. And I've always wanted to be an FBI agent because I think what they do is epic. I'm like, dude, that is so cool, right? And so I was watching one of these shows and they said something around the lines, I don't know it verbatim, but around the lines of like the lone wolf, like through the storm and through all this thing, like the lone wolf will die, but the pack will remain. And I remember hearing that and I was like, that's it. Like, I know it's so cheesy, but it's like, bro, like that's it. Like when you're by yourself, you're going to breed destruction because no one knows how to help you because they don't know if you need help or not because you're isolated, you're stuck. And you know what's so interesting? We live in a society where we can have so many followers but like zero friends. Do you know what I mean? Or where we could be around, like, by the way, someone once said that. I don't take credit for that quote. But yeah, or we can be in a room full of like we could be in a room full of like 25, 30, maybe even 50 people, but we can be like the loneliest person ever. Like, it's weird how society is because it's not like before where it's like social media done really mess us up because it shows us that it looks like we have a lot of friends and it looks like we have all this stuff, but inside we're alone. And when we're alone is when destruction will come because that's when you have nobody who can help you. You have nobody who knows. You have nobody who can pull you out of it. But man, when you're in that pack of people and you're found in this community, all of a sudden there's like accountability, right? There's like people, that's like such a big word, but nonetheless, that's what it means. Like people you're held responsible for what you do. It's like you don't go unnoticed. Why? Because you're not doing life by yourself. You're doing life with a group of people. So when they see something's off, or when they see that you're not showing up and you're not hanging out, or whatever it may be, they recognize like, oh man, maybe something's going on. They can check in on you. And so I've just discovered, like, for me, that's like the best is I can't do life alone. Like, I've got to have people with me. I've got to do life with people. I know I say vibe a lot, but I've got to like vibe with people, and I've got to have people who don't just like tell me what I want to hear, but they tell me what I need to hear. One of the things I've learned, quite honestly, when it comes to like friendships, is you've got to be able to take correction and allow your friends to be honest with you without you being offended. Like good Lord, I feel like we're so, and by we, I'm really like me, okay? We get offended so easily. Like, I feel like in so many areas of my life, I found myself where people are trying to help me, but rather than them helping me, I just get offended because they tried to help me. And so then I'm just like, you're annoying, right? But I need to hear it. I feel like we need to be less offendable, so to speak, where it's just like, and I'm speaking for myself, because I look at so many areas of my life and I recognize like, yeah, dude, you get offended way too easily, or you don't receive correction well. You ever like have people that are close to you and they try to like correct you, but not in like a bad way, but they're just like, hey man, I love you, I've noticed some things, and you're just like, you just ignore them, right? You're like, okay, like it's time for me to like block your number or something, I don't know. And I think sometimes we gotta be we have to be humble enough to receive that correction and say, hey, you're right, like I did do that, or thank you for noticing that, because I didn't notice that. And so being less offendable and doing life with people, because oh my gosh, it's so much more better. That's not even like, bro, like if some English teacher was like, if my English teachers in high school were to like watch this right now, they're probably all crying because they're like, they failed because this girl can't even speak. But anywho, yeah, that's pretty much what I want to talk about today. This is a pretty short podcast episode. Now that I'm looking at the time, it's 22 minutes. Kind of short, huh? What else can we talk about? I don't really have like a script today, or last week I didn't have a script. I'm kind of just talking. We're kind of close to Christmas. Speaking of, this has nothing to do, but it has everything to do with the conversation of friendship. All of my really good friends, their birthdays fall on December 9th, 10th, 19th, and 28th. And then we've got Christmas. And so for me, like I'm prepping like all November, like budgeting, like, oh my gosh, like how, like it's a crazy time in this household of mine when it comes to buying gifts. And so anyways, I think I'm going to end this episode here because I'm all out of words, but don't forget, be a friend. I'm like, you're like, that's deep, profound stuff, kid. No, but seriously, if there's any takeaways, maybe I could sum it up in like 3 quick bullet points. Is the first one is, in order for you to like have all these friends, first be that friend that you yourself are looking for. So yeah, be a good friend. The second one is this: the way that you can trust someone is, if you trust someone, so find someone who you know has been around, who you know is a trustworthy person, and trust them. And I'm not telling you to tell them your deep, dark secrets all in one conversation, but give them a little bit. Just tell them something and see what they do with it. And if they like hold it, then trust them again, but don't do life alone. And the third one, well, I guess I just said it, but don't live life by yourself. It's better with a pack. So find yourself with a community of people, believers, godly people who will encourage you, believe in you, pray for you. I'm telling you, that's such a key thing. Like, find people who would pray, who are going to pray for you. I'm literally sitting here today because of the prayers of so many people. And so anyways, those are my 2 cents for today's podcast conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are having a good day. And hey, I hope you have a great week. I'm praying for you. Believe the best in you, and hope to see you next week. And maybe, just maybe, we'll have a guest for episode 5. If not, don't be too saddened, because at least you'll have me. Okay, that's anyways. All right, I'll see you next week. Peace. Bye.